Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Mary with Happy Pine Soap. Today we are going to do a variation. We're going to do a simple swirl design actually, but we're going to use the same exact recipe that you see me using here from our spin swirl design from a couple of weeks ago. This recipe is one of my favorites because it stays fluid for about 45 minutes. So it's perfect for complex designs, and I love that it basically gets nice and hard pretty quickly as well, so you can cut it pretty soon, and it is just feels fabulous on the skin. So feel free to use this recipe. I will include it right after this clip. And it's important to note that you want to use a fragrance that does not accelerate, and you want to keep your lye solution and your oils lower in temp, say around 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and that will allow this recipe to behave very nicely and not accelerate on you. Here are the colors that we are using today. We're going with Tahitian Teal from Mad Micas, Pool Party, Spacewalk is one of my absolute favorites, whoops, Supernova, and Sakura. So we're going for a kind of a blue and green and copper, and this actually turns into almost a neutral tan actually, even though it looks pink now, so you'll see that later. So yeah, this is our color scheme, and for each one of these is 1 teaspoon of mica to 1 tablespoon lightweight oil, and then I mix them all with a mini blender so that they're nice and smooth and even consistency. So there you go. Our fragrance today is Lemon Bar. This is from Brambleberry. It's one of my favorites. It smells so delicious. And I've used it at the strong scent level using their calculator that they have on brambleberry.com. You basically put in the 77 ounces of soap that we're making today and use this fragrance for cold process soap, and it will spit out the correct amount of ounces to put in the recipe. And I added 5 tablespoons of kaolin clay and blended it really well. I love how kaolin clay adds slip and lather properties. So this is going to soak for a little bit while I get all the other ingredients together. We have all of our oils melted now, and I'm going to add our fragrance that's been blended with kaolin clay at this point. This fragrance behaves very nicely, so I know it won't accelerate later on when I'm blending. So I'm not too worried about adding it at this step. I like to do this so that the kaolin clay is fully incorporated. As you see, there's a little bit of kind of lumpy look to the kaolin clay if it's not blended with the immersion blender. So as long as the fragrance behaves itself, I don't mind blending it in beforehand before we add the lye. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. And then we'll wait for our lye to cool just a little bit more. I want the lye to be around 70 degrees, like room temp. And then we'll begin our soap. While we're waiting for the lye to cool all the way, basically we're going to use a 5-pound mold. This is the Brambleberry 5-pound mold, one of my favorites that I use all the time. And then I just used a rolled up towel. We're going to prop the towel underneath one end because we'll be pouring down here. And so we want it to remain nice and layered perfectly on this end and gently spread out over time. And I'm just going to use this. This tool came with my mini blender, but you can use any dowel you have. And you'll see later on that I'll be doing some swirling to create this design. So these are your other materials that you'll need. Our temperatures now have reduced. Our oils are about 81. I don't want them to get too much lower or the oils might start separating out. And our lye is about 82. So I'm going to call it good enough, and we're going to get soaping. Let's add our lye solution carefully into our oils. I'll go ahead and scrape this out. We're ready for our stick blender. Carefully burp your stick blender to release any air bubbles. All right, it appears to be holding a very nice light thin trace, which is what you want this to stay at. You don't want it to thicken too fast. We just want to make sure we have it past emulsion barely so it doesn't separate. right, that's probably good enough. Let me go ahead and start separating this out into 1 pound soap batches, and we'll get our colors in them. Once you have poured your micas in your 16 ounces of soap, go ahead and stir them carefully by hand, like you see me doing here. This way we're not speeding up trace too much, so we're keeping it nice and thin, which again, we want for this design for it to stay nice and thin the whole time, and this recipe is fabulous for keeping a nice, light, thin trace, especially and most importantly if you have a fragrance that behaves itself. I have gotten all of them stirred together, except for this beautiful teal is my last one, and the trace is behaving itself. It's staying nice and thin, which is exactly what we want it to be doing. I just have to show you the spacewalk. Oh, it is my absolute favorite color. Look at that, look at those speckles. It looks like a night sky. Oh, it's my absolute favorite. I love it so much. Mad Micas did an amazing job with this color. We have our mold put on the towel here, so it's propped up and we're ready to start pouring. What you're going to do is essentially just pour down here in the center, and I think I'm gonna pour for maybe about 5 seconds each, and then I will switch to the next color, and we will just continue until all of the colors are used. This is the order that I'm going to pour them in, by the way. I just kind of like how these colors look next to one another. Kind of color theory here. So we're going with visually what is just some really beautiful colors next to each other, because when I do the swirling, these colors will be next to each other. And then you want to make sure to kind of pour down the wall of your mold so it doesn't break the surface of the color behind it. Oh, look at that gorgeous copper on top of that navy blue. Absolutely stunning. I love it. And then last but not least, our pale pink, which, as I mentioned, will not stay this pale pink. It actually turns kind of the color of sand. So it will look really good next to that copper. All right, I'm gonna keep going, switching colors, and I'll see you guys in a few moments. going to remove the towel and we're going to let the soap gently slide down because it started to get a little full and we don't want it to, you know, spill over. All right, let's keep going with our layers. Let's go ahead and start our swirl. So I'm going to carefully turn it this way, and I gently tapped it down and made sure it was nice and level as well. All right, we're going to start with kind of a DNA or a helix swirl, and then I'll decide what I want to do from there. All right. So go ahead and insert your swirl or your dowel or your stick or whatever you're using. We're going to carefully just kind of swirl it here. Now we're going to do the exact same thing we just did, but on the opposite side and coming back. All right, hopefully this will look good. All right, I'm trying to decide what other, maybe something in the middle. Kind of just eyeballing where I want some extra swirls. This is kind of a artistic design here where you can swirl it to whatever your heart's content in terms of what it looks like here. And let's maybe do one through there. All right. Do I like that? Do I want any more? Maybe a bit over here just because it's a bigger blob of color. Let's see if I can drag some other colors through it. Yeah. All right. I think I'm going to leave it like this, and we're going to oven process it. What I have done now is combine the rest of the colors I had left over, and I'll show you what you can do with your leftover batter. I have some adorable beehives here. It's a brambleberry mold. It's just so cute. It fits really nicely in the hands, like for a little soap at the sink. And I'm just going to do a simple in the pot swirl for these. So basically I layered all the colors in, as you can see, and I'm just going to gently swirl. You don't want to swirl too much, but just a little bit to get them all intermixed gently. And then we're going to just pour them into this adorable honeycomb, or I mean not honeycomb, beehive. And it should look pretty darn cool when they're all finished. Ooh, that's the first one. I'm going to gently tap the mold down. There we go. So while I do the rest of these, I'll explain to you what oven processing is if you don't know. Basically, you will turn your oven on to the lowest temperature setting. In my case, that's 170 degrees Fahrenheit. And then you will turn your oven off before you put your soap in. And you can leave your oven light on to kind of sustain that warmth. And essentially your soap will go through gel phase over the next few hours. So you won't get any annoying partial gels. You'll get a nice full gel so you don't see any discoloration in the middle. And I usually leave my soap in the warm oven for about 3 to 5 hours, roughly. And then I'm thinking this recipe will probably be able to be cut later this evening, maybe, say in about 6 or so hours, but maybe not. Sometimes depending on the fragrance, this recipe takes longer to cut. Sometimes it's ready in as short as like 5 hours. And then other times it takes like overnight to set up. So I think the fragrance plays a big part in how quickly the soap hardens and sets up. So yeah, we're gonna use pretty much every single bee mold here, actually, which is great. So no soap wastage. And isn't that neat? Each one looks totally different. Some of these remind me of kind of like a geode or a rock. It's really pretty. All right, I'm gonna scrape the rest of that out and start cleaning up. Here they are, nice and poured. I've gently tapped them, and we're gonna stick them in the oven with the other soap. After about 5 hours, I took the soap out of the oven and let it cool on the counter even further. It was able to be cut after about 7 hours. As you can see, the oven processing deepens the colors a bit. And then I split it in half, and that reveals the gorgeous swirls. And then I used each half of this long loaf to further cut them into individual bars. And I also did bevel them with just a simple vegetable peeler, which you'll get to see all the gorgeous bars all finished and beveled here in just a moment. As you see, I am showing you the finished soaps. Some of them I did not cut the bottoms off, so you see some of the plain bottoms, but that's only because the soaps are for personal use, so I don't mind that the bottom is just a simple color. But you could absolutely, like this one here, you could absolutely cut that bottom off if you wanted to reveal the pattern. But I just didn't want to waste any soap, so I left it. But I was so pleased with how these turned out, and I was so in love with this color scheme. It is just absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I try to make them as instructional and easy to follow so that even beginners can have success with soaping. Also, if you're a beginner, don't forget to check out my Happy Pines how-tos. Those have even more additional videos, like for example, how to achieve the perfect trace, how to use soap calc and create your own recipes, how to resize recipes. So lots of beginner information is available in my Happy Pines how-tos section. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed these, guys. I so appreciate all of you. Please drop me a comment below if you did enjoy my video. Feel free to ask me any questions. I'll do my best to answer them as well. And as always, your support matters. My channel is very small, so give it a like, subscribe. All of that helps my channel grow. And I so appreciate all of you, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next soapy tutorial. Take care, everyone.